In the rich imagination of numerous individuals, the Brazilian favelas have long held a unique place, becoming emblematic of urban disparities and social inequality, with their names transcending the boundaries of the nation, gaining near mythical significance. Among these are favelas like Rocinha, located in Rio de Janeiro, or Vidigal, situated in the complex of Duque de Caxias. These names evoke chaotic, sometimes almost surreal landscapes, where distorted postcards of Rio intertwine like fragments pulled from both time and space. The urban streets within the favelas are an integral canvas, filled with cinematic scenes that have frequently become part of the global visual memory, highlighting the beauty and tragedy of these areas simultaneously. In São Paulo, there exists a favela by the name of Paraisópolis. This city within a city resembles a parallel reality, sandwiched between shimmering skyscrapers, luxurious residential complexes, and well-guarded neighborhoods of affluent districts. Salvador boasts Calabar, a distinct locale where history, culture, and social contradictions coexist closely. In Recife, one can find the favela of Teimosa, while in Belo Horizonte, there is the Aglomerado da Serra, each a community with its own unique narrative, contrasting elements, and the scars left by fate. Every one of these favelas is not simply a dwelling place, but also a reservoir of countless stories, testifying to struggles, victories, and defeats. They are frequently photographed and studied, written about in newspapers and magazines, turning into symbols of both successes and failures. They often feature in storylines of popular Netflix series, in BBC documentaries, and even in speeches made by politicians who, despite their detachment, utilize their imagery to underscore various social and economic issues. However, among the myriad of favelas, there is one that hardly anyone discusses, remaining in shadow, concealed from the majority. This favela does not hide among the hills of Rio de Janeiro, nor is it lost in the concrete mazes of São Paulo, and it does not float within polluted mangrove thickets, suffocated by trash, rats, tides, and neglect. This is Vila dos Alagados, situated in the city of Santos, a city constructed from wooden planks, stilts, and survival, yet remaining virtually invisible to most. It is a complex wooden labyrinth of decaying platforms inhabited by over 20,000 people, most of whom reside on the water, living on the thin line between life and death. This unusual community seemingly sprang into existence from chaos and necessity. But what led to the creation of this place? And why does it, despite its proximity to the city's center, still get viewed as an alien, foreign part of reality, as if it belonged to a domain where laws and rules are entirely different? Today, we aim to explore not only the external characteristics of this location, but delve into its inner essence, seeking to understand how life unfolds here and why it is so difficult to grasp that thriving neighborhoods exist just 2 to 3 minutes away. Vila dos Alagados occupies a zone in the city of Santos, which is located on the coast of the state of São Paulo, in the southeastern region of Brazil. This city is renowned for its picturesque coastal gardens, bustling port, and tourist-filled districts like Gonzaga, where shopping malls, hotels, and luxury residential complexes are situated. However, Vila dos Alagados is vastly different. It borders the adjacent city of São Vicente, where tourist opulence gives way to fragile stilt houses, muddy streets, the stench of sewage, and a complete absence of usual infrastructure. The river Rio dos Pugres flows through this area, once a marshland, now transformed into a channel, creating an impression of a different world, a parallel reality where the boundary between urbanization and nature blurs, yielding a collective improvisation that thrives by its own rules. Everything around appears fragile and temporary. Electricity here is supplied through illegal connections, often set up at night without permits. Water is delivered in basic containers or brought in by tankers, while sewage flows directly into the river without regard for the consequences. Yet despite these conditions, each morning thousands of people don simple work shoes and flip-flops, proceeding to embrace their day within the rhythm of the tides, which relentlessly alters water levels. But how did all this begin? Who decided it was possible to live on the water in this unusual and hazardous setting? The answer takes us back to a distant past, beginning with construction efforts that drastically changed the fate of this territory. The story of the community's emergence and establishment here revolves around change, about people who dared to seek their path under the most challenging of circumstances. It all commenced not with the building of homes, but rather with a government project. In the 1950s, a dam was constructed here, designed to halt the mangrove waters and dry out the land which had long been flooded by tides and storms. The idea was to create drainage channels, to prepare the territory for future urban development, and to establish conditions for residential areas to be built. However, the unexpected outcome ended up being far more significant than anticipated. The dam formed an elevated line separating the river's waters from the marshy regions. On one side sat the river, while on the other grew a burgeoning working-class neighborhood that began to take shape over time. Soon, as often happens, the area, neglected and lacking oversight from authorities, became an alluring haven for those in search of shelter or opportunities for income. In the early 1960s, the first shacks emerged, simple dwellings constructed from makeshift materials. These were small structures created by several families without access to formal housing or means to legally claim their land. They utilized whatever patch of dry land was available to build a home and refuge for themselves. The families hailed from diverse backgrounds. Some had migrated from nearby districts, such as Matador, an old working-class area a short distance away. Others came from the city's impoverished neighborhoods, being migrants from neighboring states like Minas Gerais and Bahia, drawn to the port of Santos in search of employment in fishing or construction. Yet, high rent, a lack of affordable housing, and the inability to legally establish property rights rendered their situation exceedingly vulnerable. The sole option was to improvise, building homes from whatever materials were at hand. Initially, huts appeared on solid ground. As available plots dwindled, residents started constructing homes on stilts, progressing further into the river. Each new house was built from salvageable materials, old boards, sheets of metal, plywood, tarpaulin, without any foundational bases or approved plans. The more precarious the structure, the farther it was positioned from the shore. Gradually, the dam stretched on, board by board, evolving into a floating city where each building became part of this unique settlement. In the 70s and 80s, the community solidified and grew into a self-sufficient society. The city of Santos continued expanding outward. Its development extended to the outskirts, which grew deeper into the mangrove swamp, reaching further into the thicket. The dam, once part of a governmental initiative, morphed into a symbol of neglect, an area not marked on maps, yet became home to thousands of individuals. Everything here existed outside the law, beyond formal regulations and oversight. Oftentimes, as is common with lands lacking recognized ownership, this area operated without a planning system, lacking constant support and advanced infrastructure. Over time, the wild region known as Vila dos Alagados evolved into what is now the largest favela on stilts in Latin America. This settlement did not emerge solely due to the residents' free initiatives, but was born out of a state project that largely abandoned it to fate, forgetting its existence altogether. From this neglect emerged this unique, albeit highly vulnerable, community. The residents' daily lives revolve around a constant struggle resembling walking through a minefield. Instead of mines, here there is rotting wood and crumbling infrastructure. The homes, built on wooden stilts firmly set into the mangrove thicket, seem like they could lose support and collapse at any moment. Everything around appears fragile and on the brink of collapse. The walkways connecting one home to another consist of thin, poorly nailed boards that creak and bend with each step, instilling a sense of instability and danger. For the children here, this condition seems normal. They run and jump across these walkways with such freedom, as if nothing hazardous exists. It has also become a routine state for the residents themselves. This environment lacks streets or sidewalks. Trash accumulates and isn't sorted, while potable water arrives only in containers being delivered sporadically. In most homes, lighting is provided by makeshift bulbs strung from one post to another, creating a dim and unreliable glow after sunset. Everything here is hastily constructed, done on the fly, and without much regard for durability. Life flows with the tide, and sometimes the river rises so high that it bursts into homes through doorways, turning living spaces into temporary islands of water. The sewage system operates as an open system that seeps back through cracks in the boards, posing an ongoing risk of spreading infections. Some residents tie their furniture to the walls to prevent losses during floods, while others raise their floors with cement and bricks in hopes of protecting their homes from the next tide. Yet despite these hardships, this community has learned to adapt and support one another. There's even a small grocery store, a local bar, and an improvised beauty salon, where neighbors often assist each other in repairing walkways or share essential items, whether it be a bucket of water or a gas cylinder. Solidarity stands as the only force keeping them from complete oblivion and total destruction. After all, the government has long since abandoned them to their fate. The people living here truly understand what it means to wake up with the thought that one heavy rain could wash away everything they have built and still continue living without yielding. Number 4. This place suffers from a weak infrastructure and ongoing ecological threats. As expected, the structural challenges here are massive, requiring special attention. The lack of basic sanitation is not only a source of unpleasant odors and filth, but also a cause of frequent illnesses. When contaminated water floods the homes, outbreaks of diarrhea, parasitic infections, and leptospirosis become commonplace. Here, one does not need a storm or hurricane for chaos to ensue. A mere moderate rain is enough for sidewalks to turn into genuine channels and dwellings to float like boats. In such scenarios, children become easy prey for infections and dirt. The river swells, debris clogs the drains, sewage overruns, and some areas transform into islands left isolated for hours, sometimes even whole days. Moreover, the soil upon which these homes are built is not conducive to longevity. Formerly mangrove thickets, this earth is soft, salty, and moist, slowly absorbing everything placed upon it. Homes constructed on wooden stilts gradually begin to sink into the ground. Number 5. Social issues. Within the city, in the area referred to as the Wild, there exists an entire layer of social reality hidden from the majority's sight. This location appears to live its own life, entirely invisible to official structures and systems. On most city maps, designed for convenience and navigation, this section is not even represented. This is not merely a misunderstanding or oversight, but a real factor influencing the lives of the people residing here. The lack of official designation means that this micro-district lacks a name, no established addresses, no entries in governmental databases, leading to a lack of centralized monitoring of the situation. Consequently, the systems meant to assist and support the population simply do not function or operate poorly. In this district, homes are identified only by postal codes, and children wait months for their turn in kindergarten because the system does not recognize their real addresses. Streets are devoid of names, and documents processed for residents contain fictitious or incorrect locations, as if these individuals do not exist at all from the system's perspective. In other words, this part of the city, which is effectively part of the urban structure, is not even recognized as a city officially. In local newspapers, this area was referred to as wild, forgotten, and detached from civilization. Upon reflection, this is hardly an exaggeration. While affluent neighborhoods in Santos, where elite homes stand, are equipped with hospitals, schools, and a developed transportation network, everything conveniently at hand, in this district, the difference is stark. Essential services needed for normal life are often unavailable or unreliable. The gap in living standards is evident even in statistics. In central areas of the city, the average life expectancy exceeds 80 years, while in the wild, it barely reaches 69. The Human Development Index, which reflects the level of well-being and opportunities, plunges from 0.84 to 0.65. One only has to cross the canal to find oneself in a different world. And when essential resources like food, work, and social support are sparse, feelings of hopelessness and alienation arise. Violence, unemployment, and exclusion become a part of daily reality. As is common in many suburban areas of Brazil, drug trafficking features prominently in local life and the economy, although petty crime is also present. Law enforcement intervenes rarely, and residents feel abandoned. In such conditions, families, often headed by women or elderly individuals, subsist on sporadic earnings, salvaging recycling materials, cleaning, or providing minor services. When help is needed, they turn to their neighbors since support from government structures is nearly non-existent. There is a sharp lack of public spaces, places for leisure, and social interaction. For many years, there were no sports facilities at all, further exacerbating the situation. Yet despite these challenges, the wild has developed its own identity, quiet yet resilient, born of resistance to circumstances and the internal strength of its inhabitants. This character is precisely why the area continues to exist, regardless of the odds, and why its residents take pride in their community despite all difficulties. Number 6. Culture, education, and interesting facts.